Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Doc is In. Tonight's episode is a little bit different. I want to talk about something in my first ever What Grinds My Gears segment. Um, Tonight's topic is snowflake culture. So, I want to start off with a brief description of what snowflake culture is and then kind of go from there. So, Snowflake culture generally refers to people who came into adulthood in the 2010s or very late 2000s. At first it was, Generation Z and millennials, but now a lot of older people, especially baby boomers, are referring to this segment as snowflake culture, or snowflakes. I think this is an interesting choice for words. As you know, back in the 1970s, snowflake was a term for a person of color who was seen as acting white. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Also, it was a slang for cocaine, but that's neither here nor there. So, snowflake culture. Snowflake culture refers to someone who believes they are unique and special, i.e., like a snowflake. But it's also someone who is really, really sensitive to being insulted or offended. And this especially goes for like young liberals who tend to really push. Everything offends everyone, and everyone has this right to be completely and utterly offended. Um, so hopefully that kind of describes in a quick nutshell or why it's called snowflake culture, i.e., you're sensitive and you're special. Um, so let me just kind of speak to that a little bit. In Fight Club, for those of you who've seen Fight Club with Brad Pitt, the book that is based on by Chuck Palahniuk, he has a line where he says like, "Nobody's special, nobody's a snowflake." Um, I feel like we've reached a point in society where everyone feels really entitled to something. And it's not in every society that you find this, but you find this quite often, I will say, in American culture, especially. Um, Everyone feels entitled to something. People don't want to really work for anything anymore. And it's like, well, if this person can be famous for just being famous, then why can't I? I see this a lot from, sorry to say it, but women, especially women in the majority. I hear it a lot. For example, just a personal thing that happened to me fairly recently. I was at a work function and I was in a meeting and I made a very general statement. It was a statement that wasn't directed at anyone. There were at least about 10 people in the room. No one felt that I was directing this directly at them. As a matter of fact, when I made the statement, I used we instead of you, as a just a point, just saying I'm generally speaking about us as a group. So, of all of the people who heard me say this, one person came to me afterwards and said, "Well, I was really offended by what you said because I don't feel like that I do that, and I don't feel like, I'm small minded." The really funny part about that is she couldn't see how small minded the comment that she was making to me at that moment was, because it's kind of like, okay, so you're just looking for a reason to be offended? Now, bear in mind, this same person is incredibly terse and kind of unprofessional in their communication. But what I'm pointing out in this is, wow, you're offended by something that I said that was general, yet you will say things that are directed at someone specifically and be just really terse and unprofessional about it. So, but again, that speaks to entitlement. I have a right to say all these things. You shouldn't be able to say these things back to me. Why? Because I'm a snowflake and I'm special and I'm sensitive. You can't hurt my feelings. That really grinds my gears in a very negative way. I feel that, you know, I don't know what it is, why everyone feels that they deserve special treatment, but one of my favorite lines, and I don't know if how many of you watched The Incredibles. It's a great Disney movie, but there's a scene when the youngest son is asking why he can't use his powers when he runs track, and his mom says something like, um, well, you have talents. And he said, well, why can't I show the fact that I'm special? And she says, honey, everyone's special. And his response is genius because he says, that's just another way to say that no one is. So I really want people to get out of this concept of, well, my child is special, so they can't be told certain things. My child is special, so they can't be. The fact of the matter is, you know, greatness and being special are two different things. And I feel like people make them synonymous. So greatness is something that doesn't go on sale and no one just gets it on clearance just because. You can be as special as you want to be. But if you're not coachable, if people can't talk to you about things in a real way and be honest with you, then you know what? You're going to fail. Ultimately, you're going to fail. Because no one has the time to dumb everything down and walk on eggshells and tread on thin ice because you're special and you might get your feelings hurt. Boo hoo. So ultimately, I feel like we're raising a culture of children that really have no sense of self efficacy. Largely, they're not able to be independent, all because we're coddling them to a point that we're crippling them. Um, you know, One thing that I will rarely point out, especially when it comes down to snowflake culture, is the sense of like, why is everything happening to me? As a therapist, I've heard thousands and thousands and thousands of people's personal stories, and some of those stories literally break my heart for the patient. And then some stories you hear and you're kind of like, wow, that affected you this deeply. Like, it's almost like no judgment, but it's like I really want to understand how. Now usually in sitting with them and asking some questions, I can kind of get it. And I can kind of piece it all together, because if you've never really been exposed to certain things and then something happens where for one person it may be like no big deal, but for you that might be huge, and I get it. I totally get it. I'm there with you. But for some things like entitlement, so you have a rough morning at home and then you get to work, and now it's like you feel that everyone at work should just cater to you because you've had a rough morning. It doesn't work that way. Everyone's had a rough morning. Like, you don't get special treatment because life happened to you, because it's happening to everyone around you. Um, you know, you already, it's like you start a job on Monday, and by Friday, you're like, I should be, the boss, I should be the manager. And it's like, nah, you just started. Um, it's like, understand that no matter how bad of a day you think you're having, no matter how bad maybe your week is, how much you hate your job, whatever, there's always someone who's worse off, who's having a worse day, who's having something, even more traumatic happen to them. By that same token, there's always somebody who's having a much better day than you, and who's having a much better life, and who's having nothing happen to them. The thing about it is, you don't deserve good things just because you're you. You don't deserve bad things just because you're you. Life just happens. Get rid of the sense of entitlement. Another thing is like the complaints. When you're in an environment and there's one person that just complains, 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 it's like, okay, if you're this unhappy, either change it or change the way you think about it. But my favorite thing to tell someone is either you can do nothing and shut up, or you can do something and complain. You only get one of the two options. You don't get to do nothing about your situation and simultaneously complain about it. It doesn't work that way. Sorry. Um, you know, if you're one of those people, and forgive me for saying this, but I hate being in any service environment when you have someone who has a server who may make an honest mistake. It is something so small, but that person blows it out of proportion because they want some type of compensation. oh my gosh, oh, you brought me, I don't know, you brought me mashed potatoes, but I wanted, sweet potatoes. I should get this meal for free. Should you? I worked in a hotel at one point that had a restaurant connected, and I always found it amazing that someone would be brought a meal. And if it was the wrong meal or whatever, it was never a problem until the check came. And then they're like, oh, I didn't get what I asked for. I got X, Y, and Z. I didn't get this thing that I asked for. But you look at their plate and there's like virtually nothing left. They did everything but lick the plate at the bottom to get the rest of the juice up. And it's like, okay, so clearly what you ate wasn't bad. But now because you have to pay for it, you're like, I should get it for free. Um, just things like that. I think when people start looking for reasons to deserve compensation, it's really a snowflake culture type deal. Also, those people who are like always on edge. Um, and I've had this happen, especially working in environments that contain certain like minority groups. Man, anything somebody says, no matter how general, it's taken out of context. It's taken it's like they're almost looking for a reason to get angry. And it's like someone says something and then they get attacked for saying something very innocent, and it's like, are you serious? Like, you think you're that special that your purpose for being on the planet is so that everybody can, hurl subtle barbs at you? Like, no, y'all. Like, no, like equality and liberty and freedom of speech. Um, I feel like people throw them out when when they benefit from it. But it's like, I get it, but um if you're going to talk about equality, right? Then that means everybody needs to be equal, not just the groups that you like, okay, or the groups that you're a part of. So I feel like most people really should start checking what they're doing and what they're saying in these soapboxes that they're standing up on, just to make sure, like, hey, have I done this before? Because I'm almost positive you have. Um, some of us do it subconsciously, some of us do it intentionally, but regardless, I mean, it's 7 billion people in this world. 7 billion people are not worried about you. You are not that special, okay? I mean, yes, everybody's unique, everybody's different. But at the same time, please stop thinking that everything is about you. Every person that comes up to you and say hi, they're not hitting on you. Every person that tells you have a nice outfit on today is not trying to get with you. Sometimes people really are just being nice or just being considerate. Um, if a man holds a door open for a woman, it doesn't mean that he doesn't think she can do it. Maybe he's just Southern and is showing some chivalry. Like, it's nothing to get angry and in your feelings about. I feel like so many people live their life in their feelings, and it's like, how about you live your life just living life? Everybody's having problems, everybody's having difficulties to work their way through. I want everyone out there listening, just check your own thought process sometimes. When people are, saying something, if it does offend you, ask yourself, did they mean to offend you? Are they saying it to upset you? Or are they saying it from a genuine innocent place? I can't be mad with someone for saying something that is totally innocent, with no malice behind it. Well, with that being said, that is our special on snowflake culture. I hope you guys got something out of it. Love yourselves, love someone else. Well, be better for it. Have a good one.